Good morning. President Kelly, Speaker Arch, members of the 109th Legislature, tribal leaders, my fellow Nebraskans. What an incredible time of promised opportunity for our state and our nation. What a tremendous moment for those of us who've been blessed with the privilege to serve our fellow citizens in public office. I'm as grateful today for that privilege as I was 2 years ago when I stood in this chamber and swore to uphold the Constitution. And I am more invigorated than ever before. I recently had a real reminder of the preciousness of each moment. For the incredible number of Nebraskans whose livelihood depends on the stewardship of powerful animals, they understand fully the respect of that power is no mystery. A few weeks ago, I dropped my guard, and I was humbled by the power of that horse. I stand before you here today simply only by God's grace. But a life-giving moment like that I experienced can have the effect of clarifying one's sense of mission. It reminds one of how incredibly delicate life is and to absolutely make the most of every single moment we're given. I'm incredibly grateful that Almighty God has given me a second shot at life. And I continue on the road to recovery, instilled with a renewed commitment to spending my days fighting for the people of Nebraska, and most importantly, to make a difference. I'm incredibly grateful, not many words to use that I can find to express my gratitude and love for Suzanne, for her constant love and care. And I'm unbelievably grateful the outpouring and support of so many Nebraskans. And I'm especially grateful for the power of the prayers of so many, sending me the incredible gift of the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit's healing me fast. Thank you. Okay, no more horsing around. To all the public servants of this room, and especially to our new senators and their families, thank you for answering the call and saying yes to public life and for taking on the burdens and sacrifice of service. The road ahead is full of long days and late nights, of time away from your loved ones, and of sometimes trying debates and disagreements. But with it comes the daily opportunity to leave the greatest place in the world even better than when we found it, for our kids and our grandbabies. If we keep their futures and the betterment of this state as our North Star, and set our own political fortunes aside, there is absolutely, positively no limit of what we can achieve here together. I am incredibly excited to partner with both the veterans and the new arrivals of this legislature. And I assure you, every single moment that you serve is worth it. I'm pleased to report that the state of our state is extraordinarily strong. Our unemployment rate is among the lowest in America. Our state's population is growing faster than it has in decades, and our population now has just topped 2 million people. It equals the 2 million mama cows we have in the Sandhills. The engines of our economy are powering that growth, from our agricultural background to our powerhouse financial services and the manufacturing sectors. Our state government is smaller, more efficient, and more productive. And at long last, the tax burden on our citizens to pay for that government is less than it was 2 years ago. Our natural resources are plentiful. Our people are the greatest character and the hardest working of anywhere on earth, right here in Nebraska. As I love to always say, everywhere I go, what do you love the most about Nebraska? And the answer is it's the people. And it soon will be morning again in America with the return of a presidency and Congress committed to making this nation prosperous, secure, strong, and healthy again. But even with these strengths, this legislation affords us a tremendous opportunity to take further steps forward. Simply put, the work of making Nebraska a low-tax state is far from over. We should remember how we got here, why our tax system is so out of whack. In the past, during a period of deflation, hard for us to remember that, but there were periods of deflation 10 and 15 years ago, our city, county, and state governments grew at an excessive rate. There was little fiscal restraint, and the result was bloated government growing unchecked on the backs of our people. The burden is upon us today to fix it now. To make Nebraska competitive with our neighbors, we must set the example at the state level. Despite dire warnings of budget shortfalls, I'm presenting a budget that shrinks state spending by 0.5% over the next biennium. In fact, if you set aside the increased and unreimbursed Medicaid spending required by the federal government, state spending in this budget is reduced by 2.3%. Even as we make a multi-generational investment in the University of Nebraska Medical Center and significantly increase our state commitment to supporting the mission of Offutt Air Force Base and the Strategic Command. We have presented to you a fully balanced budget that cuts spending. We have achieved this historic spending restraint by having the courage to say no and to focus on needs, not wants. And we will continue to have that courage to focus on our needs and say no. The reality is not all are happy when we work to fix the tax system. But as my dad used to say and tell us on the farm, what on earth does happy have to do with it? We have work to do. Our job as public servants is not to make everyone happy, much less any one industry or special interest group. Our job is to focus on schools, on public safety, on our roads and infrastructure, and the critical services that Nebraskans need. That's what we need to do for Nebraska and Nebraskans and nothing else. This year, we will prioritize improvements to Nebraska's school funding system. TIOSA, Nebraska's 30-year-old formula for school funding, remains broken. burdening local communities and property taxpayers in districts with limited resources, and shortchanging our kids. It would shock most Nebraskans to hear that 25 years ago, there were 226 school districts that received state aid. 24 years later, in 2024, guess what the number is? 60. That was not the intent with the original law. We are going to have the courage to make serious and lasting fixes to this system. I will establish a blue ribbon commission of experts to cut through the bureaucracy and vested special interest in our current school funding system and recommend a new model for Nebraska, which this legislature will be able to consider and adopt. And along with other technical changes to strengthen TIOSA, Senator Hughes is championing a bill that will honor the state's constitutional obligation to fund K-12 education by increasing foundation aid per student across the state, consistent with the principle that school funding should always follow the student, not the system. Although we always wouldn't know by reading papers, last year did result in real wins for Nebraskans, struggling with our spiraling property tax crisis. After years in which only some Nebraskan owners took advantage of the property tax credits, now every single homeowner has received this relief. For the first time in a generation, Nebraskans opened their property tax statement last month to find the amount they owed was lower than the year before. Like many of you, I've been overwhelmed by the gratitude shown by so many Nebraskans for this relief. For the first time ever, the amount of property taxes local governments can collect is capped, with common sense flexibility to allow for public safety, police, and firefighters. But the work's not done, it's just beginning, and we must do more this year. There are leaders in this body, like Senator Clements, who continue to fight to eliminate Nebraska's death tax. By making common sense adjustments to our tax code and making it more competitive with other states, we will invest $200 million more dollars into Nebraska's property tax credit fund. From Harrison to Omaha, Nebraskans of all stripes have recognized how out of whack our property taxes are, and they become what a burden they put on families, communities, and our ability to grow. They expect us to continue to work to solve it, and I know we will. To shrink government, we must eliminate its obsolete parts. And as I love to say, there's a lot of closets that we need to clean out. Over the years, we have created far too many boards and commissions. Many have missions that are duplicative of those of other government agencies, or which have grown simply outdated over time. All add regulatory power or more government where none is needed, especially at a time when we must tighten our belt and treat every nickel like manhole covers. We must continually assess which parts of government are still of use to the people. The clock ran out on these efforts last session, but we must right-size our boards and commissions with a common sense, bipartisan bill that will eliminate or consolidate dozens of them. Speaker Arch has reintroduced a bill that will do just that. I'm grateful for his leadership for this important issue, and I look forward to signing it into law. We have an opportunity to consolidate and streamline two of our major code agencies. Water is the lifeblood of Nebraska. And what we do to protect our quantity and to improve our quality of water, I believe, will be our legacy. Through both our vast system of surface waterways and our treasured pot of gold, the Ogallala Aquifer, we have a natural hedge against drought and therefore a God-given foundation for our agriculture and the industrial economy to weather it through the toughest of times. State government bifurcates its management of this resource through two separate departments, the Department of Environment and Energy and the Department of Natural Resources. By doing so, we needlessly divide our focus on water quality and quantity, and given the interrelatedness of these two things, this just simply doesn't make any sense. Further, it places us, Nebraska, out of step with our neighbors and uncompetitive with the majority of our fellow states. For our most treasured resource, water, to remain the envy of North America, our Ogallala Aquifer is the most sustainable and largest underground aquifer in the Western Hemisphere. To remain the envy of the Western Hemisphere for the next 7 generations, a new model of stewardship is needed. I'm grateful to Senator Brandt for carrying an important measure that will combine the Department of Energy Environment and the Department of Natural Resource and establish a new combined Department of Water, Energy, and Environment. It will save cost, it will eliminate duplicative overhead, and it will streamline the mission of stewarding and protecting our natural resources and environment, and enhance collaboration between our people as well. We have begun to work on consolidating of all the important work of these two agencies under unified leadership, and I look forward to working with you to carry that work to its completion. Now, more than ever, it's vital that our state speaks with a unified voice on the national stage. For 3 decades, under current allocation of electoral college votes by congressional district, we have divided our voice and diminished our impact in presidential elections. Not one of our fellow states, except for one, has followed down this path. Now is the time to fix it. And I thank Senator Lippincott for his leadership and giving it the priority it deserves. With no presidential election around the corner, there's no better time than now to dispassionately deliver on the will of the majority of the people of this state, to honor our constitutional founding and unify our voice in our most important exercise of democracy. I call on this body to end this 30-year experiment and pass winner-take-all this legislative session. I think it's appropriate to say now in this new modern world where we have these things that are so important to us that we have to check them every 30 seconds, I think it can be extremely difficult to protect our kids and culture from the harmful effects of the ever-present social media, online bullying, and attacks on our values. Every parent knows firsthand the worry of what their kids are being exposed to online and on screens. I believe here in Nebraska, we need to level the playing field between parents and the big tech giants. I'm grateful to Senator Sanders, Senator Hardin, Senator Bozen, and Senator Storer for introducing a package of bills to protect our children from the harms of social media ban phones in classrooms, and fix our child pornography laws to include AI-generated images. Think about this. We protect our kids from tobacco. We protect our kids from alcohol. We protect our kids from tattoos until certain ages. And we even restrict the age of when kids can work. Do you think we should take that one up too? There's no reason why we should not protect their mental health from the damage caused by social media too. We must protect our kids, and especially our daughters and granddaughters, in other ways. In a world where common sense has become uncommon, it remains our North Star here in Nebraska. It's hard to understand a small minority of people believe it's acceptable to allow biological boys to share bathrooms, locker rooms, playing fields with girls. This is unfair, unconscionable, and a recipe for predatory behavior. Senator Kauth has brought back a new and improved Stand With Women Act, which will make sure that women's spaces are protected for women. I don't want my granddaughters that are sitting up there in the first row, for that matter, sharing a locker room with boys. And I don't want them competing against boys. And I know the overwhelming majority of Nebraskans agree. Pass the Stand for Women Act to my desk so we can protect common sense and young girls here in Nebraska. And last, but absolutely not least, we must take steps to protect both our farmers and producers and our consumers of food in our state. I'm grateful to Senator Jacobson for his work to protect farmers' data from being taken advantage of by large corporate and big data interests. We have another opportunity to protect both consumers and our agricultural producers in a single step. It's important we send a message of leadership in Nebraska. The big food industry wants to flood our supermarket shelves with deceptively named products that purport to be meat on par with what our ranchers, feeders, and farmers produce throughout Nebraska. But the hardcore reality is really simple. This stuff is made in bioreactors and is a masquerade of the original with unreliable protein, unknowable ingredients, and a flat-out dishonest label on the front. It's really important for us all to be on the same page. The backers of these products are all cut from the exact same cloth. They are anti-farmer activists who are the modern-day Trojan horse that wants to put our agricultural producers and everything tied to agriculture out of business. It's really, really important that all of us recognize that. I will never stop fighting for Nebraska's farmers and ranchers. And I stand, thank you. The lifeblood of our state, we need to be on offense. And I stand with Senator DeKay, who has introduced a strong bill to beef up our consumer protections and false labeling laws to eliminate these dishonest practices from Nebraska's grocery shelves. Last year, Nebraskans, what we experienced was unbelievable. Countless examples of public service in its purest form. In 2024 was a year where we felt the wrath of Mother Nature time and time and time again. Record blizzards, raging wildfires, torrential floods, and extraordinary vicious tornadoes. It set the stage for a record 11 declared emergencies last year, throughout the year. Many Nebraskans experienced the worst day of their lives, with their homes destroyed, their families in peril, and their futures incredibly uncertain. But here's the awesome thing. In the darkest moments, the people of our state were at their best. Nebraskans, helping Nebraskans. And the strength and incredible grit and determination of our people shone through the brightest. One of the incredible privileges is getting to serve as your governor, is to get to know firsthand the men and women who have answered the call to be the first to respond when the crisis strikes. I met an extraordinary peer public servant who talked about going into homes totally destroyed, expecting to find victims of the tornado, and what that emotionally did to him and his team. With us today is Chris Potter, Chief of the Kennard Volunteer Fire Department from Washington County, whose fire and EMS responders were there for the community moments after the deadly tornado tore through it. Please join me in welcoming Chris as a representative of all of our first responders across our state. Chris. Chris is over to our right under the balcony. Thank you, Chris. Chris, the moment that I met you and you told me about what you and your team went through, you just touched my heart deeply. And all your incredible work, your leadership, we're incredibly grateful, so thank you. Also with us today is the entire Nebraska Emergency Management Agency team, better known as NEMA. These dedicated people are the hub of the wheel of our state's emergency response system. I know I have taken what they do totally for granted. When the call comes in the middle of the night, they're the ones that start making it happen. Their work is not seen, it's really unknown to most of Nebraskans, but that in no way diminishes the dedication of their work or the pride which they do it in. Please join me in welcoming the NEMA team and honoring them and thanking them. Our NEMA team, please stand up. Yeah, please. I'm getting there. Many important issues will consume our focus throughout this legislative session. I pledge to you that we will be your partner throughout it all. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everyone stepping up and answering the call of public service. And it's really important that we thank your families. May God bless you, and may God bless the people of the greatest state in the history of civilization, Nebraska. Thank you for the privilege.
Will the committee please escort the governor from the chamber?
They're going to go this way. Okay. Okay. We'll make it work. We can be the rear guard.